All right, this is Tuesday, September 16th. It was bound to happen. We're back, unfortunately. Here we are. So I see that we have a quorum. Is there a motion to open the meeting?
Motion?
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So our first item tonight is a continued public hearing. This is the Newcastle Fire District number 1, 491 King Street, application for a site development plan amendment for modification of the previously approved site lighting.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Joe Modafferi, Project Manager with JMC, here on behalf of the applicant, Newcastle Fire District. I have with me Dwight Smith, the Chairman of the Fire Commissioners, and let me see, Lynn Weinig should be on the Zoom at some point. If you'll just give me a second to share my screen, I have a presentation that I'd like to run through. Let's see. So we are here tonight again for amended site plan approval for changes to the site lighting plan. Already introduced everyone that's here. The project received amended site plan approval, or is here again tonight for amended site plan approval for the site lighting. Our initial presentation for the amended site lighting, you may recall, was July 1st. We had a follow-up discussion on July 15th, and there were three key takeaways from that, or comments from that meeting. Reduce the color temperature of the proposed lights from 3,000 Kelvin to 2,700 Kelvin. Evaluate adjustments to the wall-mounted lights recently installed on the existing building, and provide a full summary of the lighting operations and fixture controls. Just for context, the existing aerial, if we need to come back to it later, and existing conditions map. So before you right now is the previously approved lighting plan from 2016, where we highlighted previously that there was no light spillage at the property line.
Can you tell us what we had approved in terms of the number of lights for the site at that point, including the extension?
The number of lights, so this plan included I think it was 7 or 8 pole-mounted lights. The number of pole-mounted lights has not changed since the previous approval. We had 3 lights above the truck bay doors facing Memorial Drive, 1 light facing King Street above the truck bay doors, 2 lights mounted on the wall at the front along King Street for the proposed expansion, 1 proposed light over the existing truck bay of the existing building. Actually 1 proposed light over each of the existing truck bays, and then 4 lights over the back on the building on the existing building. So 1 here, 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 and here. And then when we came before you in July, we had the amended approval where we had proposed some lighting amendments that included some lights that were now existing on the building that were installed after the start of construction by the fire commissioners. And those are 5 lights along the back of the existing building here. We also incorporated some lights on the building here at the man door entries, and then I guess another light here at the man door and another one here at the man door, as well as we made 3 lights at the truck bays on King Street as opposed to 1 that was there before. We also proposed not to modify any of the lights along the front of the existing building. Basically, the existing lights on the firehouse would remain. The result of this plan was that we had some minimal light spillage at the back of the property here facing the utility substation, and then a little bit of light spillage on Memorial Drive here. So if you'll recall, one of the other changes we made was the pole-mounted fixture that was approved in 2016 is no longer available now with the cutoff on the back at the property line. So if we installed the approved lights that were previously approved, we would have spillage over the property line from the back of those because the fixture, the mechanisms in the fixture that we proposed was no longer available.
Which light was that? Which pole light?
Those are the pole mounted lights. So we switched
All
from
of
the
them?
flex, all the pole
I
mounted
see.
lights.
Okay.
So we switched to the approved flex style light to a more utilitarian like shoebox style that you see on other sites such as the Walgreens across the street. I need to sign in. There we go. Still here. Good. From there, we now have our currently proposed plan, and we're showing no light spillage over the property line. Still with the same number of lights that we proposed last time, but we made some adjustments to that. The major part of the adjustment was that, you lost my, did I lose connection to the Zoom? Looks like you lost my,
You're no longer connected.
Yep, I'm going back in now. I'm no longer connected to the internet at all. What happened here? Apologies. Why do I have no internet? Looks like I'm back in. Open. Okay. Join. Does not want to connect.
Joe, do you want me to bring up your plans?
Sure. You know what, I can, you know what, is Lynn on? Lynn, can you share your screen with the presentation I forwarded to you? I have the presentation I forwarded to Lynn, so.
Yeah, I will try to do that in a
Okay.
sec.
Yep.
Can you see?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Let me just page turn.
Okay.
What page are we on?
Right, up, one up, I think. That's it. Keep going, one more. Next. Next.
Okay, here's the start. Project engineer.
Project
You
builder.
show the site.
Yep. So we were at.
That's the approved
plan with
lighting
the-
plan?
Yeah, that's the approved lighting plan again with no light spillage. Then we went to the one that we previously submitted in July that had some minimal light spillage. and then the current plan that shows again, no light spillage.
Okay.
And then, so how did we achieve that? Number one, we shifted one of the pole mounted lights down away from the property line a little bit. If you can go to the next slide also. And we had, turn this on too. So we previously had these two light fixtures.
You have to use that.
Thank you very much. So we had previously had these two wall-mounted light fixtures that have now been replaced with this light fixture. So the light fixture on the top is the light fixture that was installed by the fire district just after construction started. That is the one you can see from the face of it, the light shines out as opposed to down. So that was throwing the light
So,
over the
The
property.
one that you have there in the middle that you're pointing to with the blue arrows, is that it's so it's parallel with the ground
Yes.
and there are brackets that hold it in that
Yes, that's
position?
correct.
Okay.
So it's consistent with the one we were proposing on the rest of the building. But we were going to keep this one and replace that, but although the board didn't say that we had to go to 2700 Kelvin, we also changed the plans to go to 2700 Kelvin across the board. So this fixture at the bottom here was not available in 2700 Kelvin. So we changed all of the wall-mounted fixtures to this fixture here.
Including the ones on the existing building?
That's
Everything's
correct.
been changed?
That's correct. So that, by doing that, that eliminated the light spillage over the property line there. The only ones that are not, well, I shouldn't say all of the pole-mounted fixtures, wall-mounted fixtures are changed to that. There are really ceiling-mounted fixtures at two of the doors that have an overhang that will have the, you know, a recessed light here. And then this light here, the wall-mounted one in black here, is the one that will be placed over the truck bay doors facing King Street. Because those are the lights that will not, by putting three, one over each truck bay door, these are designed to not throw light over the property line in the position where it is. So,
Hey Joe, people online don't know where you're pointing, so can you just say like upper left, right, middle?
sure. So, so the lower one on the right, with the, below the, recessed light is the one I'm talking about for the truck bay doors facing King Street.
Thank you.
And the truck bay doors to the north are the other bracketed
Yes,
downward light?
yes.
Okay.
Everything else that's wall mounted will be the fixture that the arrows are pointing to. The only ones that are different are the ones over the truck bay doors at King Street.
Or the ones over the doorways?
And the ones that have a canopy over the top, they'll have a recessed light within the ceiling. So, Lynn, you wanna go to the next slide, please? Alright, so, the next thing that you had asked for was if we could provide controls of the fixtures, how we intended to do that. So this slide includes the fixture controls that we included on the plan with color-coded circles where they are. So the first one is the B fixtures, which are all the pole-mounted fixtures circled in red. Those are to be controlled by a timer that will turn off at 10 o'clock and go from dusk to 10 o'clock. And then by motion sensors after that for when, you know, an emergency, whatever, if somebody drives through the lot. Fixture C, which is the lights on the easterly side of the site in the green circles, and the one with the on the westerly side of the proposed expansion. Those are also to be controlled by the timer till 10 o'clock on the plans, but that was a mistake on my part in the plans. Those are intended to be controlled dusk to dawn, and I'll get to reasons for that shortly. The D and C1 fixtures on the back of the building facing Memorial Drive on the plans are intended to be photocell dusk till dawn, as well as the 3 light fixtures in the purple over the truck bay doors at King Street. And then the E fixtures that are those are the 2 that are underneath the canopies, the recessed lights. Again, photocell. And then the 5 existing fixtures that are being replaced with the new fixture we just talked about, again, are photocell dusk to dawn, just like the ones that are out there right now. So essentially, we have, for safety purposes, proposed that all of the building-mounted lights be dusk to dawn for protection. Now, there was a comment from Sabrina asking that whether some of the lights could be on motion sensors, specifically the 3 lights over the truck bay doors and the 3 on both sides of the building. So I think that's the next slide, Lynn. So what we looked at first is this slide shows all of the building mounted lighting that's currently on the plan. And the limits, that blue line around the numbers there is essentially the approximate limits of the throw of those lights without the pole mounted lights. So the closest 0 that we had to any of those lights, that kind of shows that where it is today, where we would propose to do the dusk to dawn lighting. If you can go to the next slide, please. So this plan, I'll leave that one is fine. The plan on the lower right shows where we can take the lights over the truck bay doors and make them motion sensor only. And that would reduce the lights dusk to dawn to what you're seeing on the right. So that's a comparison of what we currently show on the plans and what I've talked to the fire district about, taking the lights over the truck bay doors and making them motion sensors. So they would only come on when somebody walked by them, drove by them, whatever. Now, so all of the lights, other than the 5 on the existing building that are being replaced, all the lights on the proposed building that are mounted on the wall in this scenario on the lower right are at man doors where people would walk in. So that's the safety concern for us. We want those lights on dusk to dawn, that in the event somebody needs to get to the door, they can see where it is, they know where it is, they're not walking up to it with a motion sensor or whatever. If for some reason the motion sensors on something don't work, they can at least get to the door and have a light on at the door if they have to get into the building with their key fob or key or however they're gonna do that or whatever.
And there are, for example, 3 doors on that eastern side, or
Yes.
southern side?
Yes, so those are actual doors, so we'll get into more of that question a little bit later. So next slide, please.
Mounted.
They're mounted at about 8 feet. I believe those are right above the doors, basically. So we were also in receipt of a comment letter from Mr. Carlock, who's here tonight, and wanted to just go through our responses to some of his comments. So if you look at the northwest corner, the existing building, basically, where those 5 lights are that were in question back in July. He made some statements that we want to clarify or whatever. So his first statement was the 5 high-intensity lights on the existing building are to remain. These should be removed. Again, that's not a true statement. I just said we're going to take those high-intensity lights and replace them with lower-intensity lights. Pre-existing lighting on the existing building was to be removed as part of the approval. That's not a true statement. The original design was to basically supplement the existing lights on the building. There appear to be more lights proposed than necessary on this to support the project. Again, not a true statement. This is a small, narrow site where we have to use more lights with different throw patterns to get light to the spots where we have to get it. We can't just put one light in the middle of the site and let it throw all over everything. It's not a big parking lot where we can throw, have fewer lights at a higher height and all that. Lights installed without approval of the planning board. Yes, those lights were installed without approval of the planning board. But we did receive temporary approval from the building department, and those were installed for safety of the firefighters during construction. And again, this is the reason we are here tonight is to approve those lights. And again, we've reduced them from the high intensity lights to the lower intensity lights. Lights are directed towards the perimeter of the property. They are obviously wall mounted lights. We can't direct wall mounted lights towards the building because they're throwing it out away from the building.
Can you show us what you're going to use for the pole mounted lights and how they are directed? It seems from the sketch that you are directing at least some of those outwardly. I mean, do you have a sample of what that's going to look like, what those lamps are going to look like, those fixtures are going to look like?
Yes. Well, that is the lighting plan that is the full lighting plan that we have. So I don't have anything specific just with the pole mounted lights.
Okay. Well, that's kind of important because to me, I think you've demonstrated with the building mounted ones that you've done a good job, reduced the Kelvin on it, and you've identified where there's some real needs. I'm just wondering about these pole mounted lights because even though we have zero throw off the property, that's a measurement that's really important for rabbits. But when we are actually dealing with someone living in a house, et cetera, there's also a glare factor. This is a transition zone. So I think it's important for us to understand what's going on with these wall mounted, and maybe there's some solutions on those. And again, since you're proposing to have these on until 10 o'clock in some cases, and I guess one other question would be, what are the lumens that you have on the all-night situation at the site? And then when you have the poles and those that turn off after 10 o'clock, what do we have between dusk and 10 o'clock in terms of lumens?
So,
I mean, there is a
well,
statement
the
that this
lumens
is.
are 27.
That's
That's Kelvin, that's Kelvin,
Okay.
that's the temperature. So lumens are the brightness of the overall effect here.
Let's see if I can find that and answer that question, but
Do you have a sample though of the pole lamp that you're gonna put on top of the pole?
they were provided with the submission package back in July.
Okay, so there's no change with those? In
No,
other
no,
words,
no.
As I understand it, they're directional.
Yes, so they are directed, there was some comments that were made about a house side shield, and that's sort of a generic term that, old school kind of term where with the LEDs, it's an internal system that throws the light away from the property line. So all of the pole mounted lights are controlled with that type of system.
So my concern or point is that in some cases, it might be better to have those pole mounted lamps placed so that they shine inwardly, not outwardly.
So
Because no matter what you do with the direction, you're gonna have some sort of glare going off site.
So the issue there is, especially on the side of where we are abutting the residential
Right.
use, is that the town has two easements there, a sanitary easement and a storm easement. This was part of our discussion way back in 2016, where we had the discussion, we talked about it, and it was suggested by your board that we do that. But because there's an easement there, it's not feasible to put lights in your town's easement, because then it's in the way of any maintenance or whatever may happen there. So the lights, the pole mounted lights shown on the plan today are the locations are substantially consistent with the approved lighting plan. There was one or two lights that we shifted from on the Memorial Drive side down towards closer to the firehouse in order to avoid spillage over the property line back at Memorial Drive. But other than that, they are all in the same spot that they were during your 2016 approval, and we discussed that issue back then.
So the pole lamps, for example, in the driveway accessing the rear of the new building, again, those are directed outwardly. I don't think those are involved in the easement, perhaps they are. But isn't there a way that they could be positioned so that the light shine is toward the building and not off-site? I mean, you've done that, for example.
Lynn, can you go to the lighting plan?
So the poles there to the northern side, those are great because those shine right back into your parking area, the safety area, and toward the building. But the concern I have is, now that we're concerned with comments from the neighbor, is how can we mitigate that? How can we eliminate that? What can we do? And it seems to me that some sort of reconfiguration of that, a few of these pole lamps would help us.
So, again, so we're talking about, I'm guessing, this pole here.
Yep.
And maybe these two.
Correct.
So I'm gonna follow right along here. That is the limits of the two town easements. It goes from here all the way to the property line.
Mhm.
So there is really no way to put a light within this area to the right side of this plan.
Because
Because it's a town-owned easement that we can't put fixtures in. We can put curb and we can put landscaping.
so your drainage sheet flows out of the, I mean, have you not seen your?
Well, it's a
You have
drainage easement,
I'm saying you have pavement there, right?
yes.
So the water, is that sheet flowing towards the building, or do you have any catch basins in that corner?
Over here,
Yeah, no, on the right, on the right side.
here,
No, where you have that parking lot that's in the easement. So you already
Yes.
got permission from the town to put asphalt. And my question is, for that, do you have any subsurface improvements in that area? That would be different than the mounting for the light pole fixture.
I believe it is just the town sewer and the town storm that's within that. I can double check and look, but
Has the question been asked to the town if it'd be okay to put a single structure in that area? I don't know how deep the line is, but we're talking about single concrete.
I would have to, this is Lynn, sorry, Lynn Whiting. I would have to check the easement, but I don't think you're allowed to put anything in it.
that was my understanding as well.
And you can't put any trees that, would, go down and,
Right.
disturb the pipes.
You can't without asking permission. But you can go to the town and say, and working with the town officials, say, we wanna put a single pole here. Will that work, right? We do that in right-of-ways along our roads. Think about the daycare, Warped Up, right? There was something that we approved in that area. So there's a possibility. I guess it doesn't sound like that question's been asked. That there was-
It was asked and it was
Okay.
discussed in 2016.
Okay, I wasn't here in 2016.
I understand.
Chairman,
Yes, Bob?
can I chime in on something
Sure.
here, please?
Yep.
I mean, it seems to me it's critical if there's a pole there, I would recommend at this point in time that maybe someone reach out to the Commissioner of Public Works, who makes the final say. That would be Bart Carey, on whether or not a pole and electric conduit could be put in that easement. He's the one that makes the final decision on anything in the town easement, so it might be worth its while to do that if you feel it's necessary, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I think it would be desirable from the standpoint of mitigating the impact. I don't think it's the end of the world, but I think it would be a good thing to do.
I can reach out to him if you'd like and have him contact Joe.
Joe, what, if you're aware, what kind of changes would be required in the utilities, et cetera, to be able to put something in that easement area?
I'm working on trying to get the utility plan up if I can to look at that. Unless, Sabrina, do you have access to that plan from
Which plan is it? I have your plans. Which one
utility
is it?
plan? It was not submitted with this package. It would be,
Then I don't have that one. And I think that if, I don't think that the DPW commissioner should contact Joe. Joe, I think you should contact the commissioner if you wanna revisit that.
Maybe there's emails where this was litigated in the past and the answer is no, but at least I don't have that information here. And it doesn't sound like the board
I don't recall it.
recalls that either.
No, I don't recall. Maybe Sabrina, Bob, if you recall?
Yeah, I don't remember that conversation, but it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But
I don't remember
Also-
it either.
to Sabrina's point, have Joseph email Bart, copy, Jeffrey, Sabrina and I, and just so we're in the loop on it. And see where it goes from there to work with the planning board to possibly put a light and alleviate some problems with the neighbor.
So Joe, I just wanna be clear, the location right now of that pole mounted fixture was previously approved by the planning board?
that's correct. That light has not moved since, none of the lights, the one that's directly adjacent to the proposed building or the ones in the truck access drive going out to Memorial Drive have been changed as part of this process. Other
Yeah,
than,
so I would just, I appreciate the fact that we're back here and sort of opens up the ability to take a second look at everything. But, this already has been considered and approved by the planning board. And it's going to probably cost the district more money if they've got to now sort of relocate utilities, et cetera. And I would just ask that the planning board keep in mind that this is a volunteer fire station. And we're just trying to make the site safe for the firefighters while also being aware of the neighbor. Joe's gonna be able to continue, to answer the neighbor's points, but the neighbor had the opportunity to complain about those particular lights previously. I don't recall whether he did or he didn't, but in any event, the planning board did approve the location of those lights. So to start reopening things, again, is going to cost the district, the taxpayers, time and money. And I know that these things, we're on a timeline to approve these plans so that we can get the work in. Everything's scheduled. We just would appreciate that, extra recognition.
Well, I certainly appreciate that, and I don't think we're trying to build up expenses here. But we're here because the fire district didn't follow the original plans, and so when we start looking at this, we have to start looking at it at the aggregate again. And again, we have more lighting now than was approved in the aggregate. We don't know what the lumens are at this point. We've asked, so we don't really know what the overall brightness is. We have comments from at least one member of the public that said, this is substantially more lighting than the Millwood Fire Department has. This is substantially more than you'd see in a large parking lot. And I think Joe has answered that nicely in terms of, well, it's not a large parking lot, it's a narrow area, and we want the first responders to be safe. By the same token, I think more can be done in terms of not lighting this place up like Rockefeller Center, and having these things on motion detectors, and I think more can be done that way. So I certainly appreciate it. We're not trying to run this around or anything like this. I think I'm happy to call the commissioner as well, give my thoughts. I was just talking with Jeff informally. There are other places, for example, you have a lighting pole on the west side of the drive access, the one that's closer to the building. That could certainly be flipped in the other direction on the other side. outside of the easement, there's plenty of room there for putting in a pole. Again, these kinds of nuances to fix it. I understand that this was looked at and approved a long time ago. And we made some changes back then. I remember those, especially the ones along the Con Ed property. And again, we did that to shine the stuff, the lights inwardly. So we've had some issues raised, and I personally don't think they're unreasonable to try to respond to those and try to mitigate this to the greatest extent possible. I don't think having pole lights in addition to all these other lights, not knowing what all lumens are, that is necessary for safety. That's just a layperson's statement. But certainly wanna make sure that the lights are there for safety reasons when there are emergency calls. That can be done nowadays through so many different electronic solutions. And we understand that you need to have some lights on over doors, et cetera. It's perfectly fine, makes sense. But some of these, it seems to me, can be repositioned or changed, and we can have a little bit more happiness with neighbors.
Couple questions.
Sure, please.
In your original approval, focusing on the addition, you said that over the truck bays on the front, there was one light, and now you're replacing it with 3 lights.
Correct.
Was that, and looking here, it looks like each one of those is roughly 2,700 lumen.
Okay.
Was the original single light 7,500 lumen? Or was it, like, are you proposing to increase the amount of light that is on the front, as now you're adding 3 lights and without seeing your original plan?
I can't answer that right
Okay.
now.
Okay.
The issue with the single light going from, we submitted with 3 lights on the building.
Alright,
We had some light spillage over the property line with the lights that were proposed. At the time of the original approval, we said, okay, we will put 1 light over the middle bay. In the development of construction documents, the architect expressed safety concerns with only having 1 light over that single truck bay
mhm.
and wanted to put 3 in. So we said, okay, but we're gonna have to come back in front of the board. We were able to find a light fixture that did not result in spillage over the property line, which was the concern of the board at the time. So that's, we proposed 2 more lights, but fixed the issue of no spillage over the property line, which is the question that was raised at the original level.
Okay. I myself did a very nice arts and crafts project here, circling all your different lights.
We
And
match?
we're very close.
Pick the same
But-
colors?
I didn't have purple. My kids it's all dried up, but so all the ones that stayed on from dusk to dawn were red here. But now you said that you're changing, the green ones are gonna be on dusk to dawn as well?
Yes. So the idea again behind that is to have all the lights at the man doors
Yeah,
to be dusk to dawn. So that the doors can be seen and people can get to them, whether it's a firefighter, somebody in need of help, whatever it may be.
so it seems like most of these lights now are going to be converted to dusk to dawn. Whereby there's a request from a neighbor. I mean, that, you drive by it right now with the existing 5 lights that were installed, I mean, it's pretty light out there.
Again, those lights are coming out.
I know, but they're being replaced with something else. But nonetheless,
Much less obtrusive.
totally understand, but as the chairman has mentioned, putting a lot more of this onto the motion sensors, because it's not even just the neighbors, it's light pollution in general. God forbid the fire department ever has to show up at my house, after 10 o'clock, all my outside lights go off, but the motion sensors light our property up like a Christmas tree. Each one of the lights is 3,000 lumens, so if God forbid you have to come to my house, you'll be able to find it very easily. Doing something similar here, where it's easy with motion, it goes on, even if, like on the front, there were, in certain areas, there were some that stayed on, but other ones were motion sensor. Something where you have some light, but not all the light until there's actual need for it, i.e. someone shows up. I'm a big proponent of that, cause we have a lot of light
Well,
pollution.
Again, what we had proposed is the plan currently shows that all of the building mounted lights were intended to be on dawn to dusk.
Mhm.
We spoke with the fire district based on Sabrina's comment and said, okay, again, we want to keep the lights at the doors on dawn to dusk, the man doors, but we're taking the lights at the truck bays and making them motion sensor. So that's what was shown in that other exhibit that I showed.
Don't you have some, is there some potential to do some of those as a motion in the back there?
I can discuss it with the fire district.
Cause those rear ones are just when the trucks are returning, correct? The ones that face north toward Memorial, my understanding that the site circulation as the trucks return just drive straight through.
Yes,
Chairman back there shaking his head.
yes,
So realistically, unless someone's walking by, which could be a motion sensor, those lights don't necessarily need to be on until the truck's responding or returning and the lights go on as they're getting close. Right, versus
Well,
having them on
that's-
having them on all the time.
Are we the only one we're talking about facing that way on all the time is the one at the man door.
So the three blue ones there,
This
that,
one
yeah.
here would be on all the time. These three blue ones and these three purple ones would be motion sensor only.
Okay, so that's your update to the plan.
Yes,
Cause I have them
yes.
read on mine, which means
Yep,
they're
yep,
all
yep.
the time.
Understood. No, so the proposal was to take those lights over the truck bay doors, even the ones exiting.
Yep.
Would be motion sensor only.
But the pole lights would still be on dusk to dawn.
No, the all pole
10
mounted
PM?
lights are till 10 PM, which, by the way, I believe the code allows to 11. I remember a discussion with our team and said the code allows to 11, let's cut them off at 10. So,
Well, I would suggest taking a look at it and saying, seeing whether or not you can even alternate some of those. Just leave one on from the 10 PM and then the others are on motion detectors. The sensors, excuse me. Again, to Jeff's point, there's an issue here of just, that's not changing the plan at all, it's just putting different electronics in for more controls. It's just a lot of light pollution, and it seems to me to be overkill, unnecessary, to be on just all the time. We definitely want everything there when you guys need it, people tripping, falling, slipping, whatever, you guys have to, get into the doors, I understand the doors, those all make sense. But the pole lights and some of those lights in the old building that were put up, again, I'm sure they're all necessary when you need them. But 90% of the time, 99% of the time, you don't need them, so put some sort of motion sensors on those, along with the timing. Again, it doesn't really change the plan, it's just a matter of putting in some sort of device on some of those. The issue of the pole ones on the southern side, that I think really needs to be explored. And again, these up here, if they're going to be on, one's gonna be on to, dusk to dawn. This one right here could be
No.
relocated here.
again, those are till 10 o'clock and that's it.
I understand, I'm sorry, but even at 10 o'clock, I mean, this could be located here and shining the other way onto the driveway. The impact would be to the industrial Con Ed property, no one occupies it. Again, to my knowledge, nothing has been paved here yet, so this is the time to make any minor changes in terms of conduit, just trenching a quick line and pouring a little footing.
Okay.
This is,
So-
it's
So, as
two
we
hours.
mentioned, and you're aware, we're under construction.
Right.
They are looking, I think installation of these lights is scheduled technically and conduits and whatever is scheduled for mid-October. So, sounds like I gotta come back. When is the next meeting?
Mr. Chairman, this is a public hearing. I'm not sure if anyone's in the public that would like to speak.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Sabrina. Actually, we also cut you off, Joe. Did you wanna
No,
make other statements and
No, I just wanted to,
we cut
you
off
know,
the presentation, actually?
give Mr. Carlock a chance to speak. Thank you, Sabrina. But, you know, if we need to come back, I think I heard the next meeting is October 7th. When is the submission deadline for that?
It was yesterday.
Can we get some leniency on that?
Yes, we can work with you, sure, of course.
Alright, so as long as I can work with Sabrina, maybe after the meeting, or if the board wants to tell me when I need to get this resolved in order to come back to you on October 7th, that would be much appreciated.
Well, it seems to be, again, as a layperson, that the electric devices that you would put on for sensors, that's easy. The issue of whether or not the commissioner will permit some sort of conduit and footing in over the easement is another issue. Working out and changing some of the other locations of these poles, I think is relatively easy as well. So this is, you don't have to redo a whole plan.
But also, Mr. Chairman, I think it would be helpful, Joe, if you could do a lighting plan with just the pole lights to see what is the amount of light that the pole lights are giving off, as opposed to the building lights.
Okay.
And I think particularly, my interest would be in the one pole light on the side facing the neighbor to the east.
The one next to in the parking lot, or next to the
Correct.
park?
On the side of the building,
Yes,
the old building.
okay.
Well, I'm also interested in the other, that goes along the
Yeah.
driveway coming in.
We will endeavor to take
Sure.
and break up the plan and show you a number of scenarios on, what kind of light is thrown and
And again, if you can give us a before and after in terms of your calculation of the lumens.
okay.
Joe, is there anything else on your responses to Mr. Carlock's letter that you wanted to discuss with the board, or should we
I-
just put it all on hold now?
I think we just put it on hold. We've
Okay.
heard their concerns. I mean, I think they're aware that we addressed some of the comments, but they still have concerns about location, et cetera. So, if there's something that Mr. Carlock presents tonight that, we feel we wanna talk about, we'll talk about tonight.
Yep, sounds good,
Alright.
okay,
Thank you.
good. Any other comments, questions from board members at this time? Sabrina, you had some comments?
Mr. Chairman, I don't really think, I guess the biggest comment that hasn't been touched on already is, I love the idea that the fire chief has the ability to control the lights, turn them on if they're actively heading towards the site or whatnot. I would like more of the lights to be that way instead of the dusk to dawn lights, other than over the doors. I completely understand for safety reasons, the recessed lighting and what needs to be over the entry doors, but I really like to try and put more control in the hands of the operators.
Good, thank you. Jeff, did you have any other comments? I know you had a memo, I don't know if you want to add something?
Yeah, no, my memo really just summarized the changes for your benefit to the drawings. That was all.
Okay, great, thank you.
So just
Okay. Yes,
one
okay,
thing
John.
quick in
Sure.
response to Sabrina's comment about the, putting it in the hands or the control of the chief, where they flip a switch or whatever, that's however, what?
An app on their phone.
Whatever it may be, that's a potential for a human error issue. He's thinking about getting to the fire or the emergency, whatever it is, getting there, taking care of that situation. To take another 30 seconds to get his phone to open up, find the app, turn the lights on so everybody can get in there, we're dealing with life safety here. And I can tell you that if I even ask the fire chief that question, he's gonna bite my head off.
Does the fire chief respond to
Listen, I think that
or does fire chief?
the solve to that is to really look at, are all these lights necessary?
And the motion sensor
Yeah.
and technology that if the chief is responding, right, he's you can set up the lights at their geofence, he gets anywhere within a quarter mile, all the lights turn on. I mean, there's so many different ways to do it, but most importantly, fail-safe, which is motion sensor. It's not even the chief having to be there. Police sit there all night sometimes, just waiting to respond. They're moving back and forth, they'll probably turn on some lights for you just being there. Right, so doing that, whether they're cutting through or whatnot, that could be inadvertently not knowing that when there's no emergency, right? They're just sitting there as a place to either Scrafflin or the fire department, that's where they sit all night until, God forbid, someone needs them. That'll turn on the lights. If they're sitting in this parking lot right here all night, they could be turning on these lights that are adjacent to this to the gentleman's house inadvertently. So I think the motion sensor side of things really needs to be looked at. There are ways to minimize the impact of light pollution, not necessarily to just the neighbors, but to the overall community.
Okay.
And I also think that the whole, seeing it from space type of thing plays in here because this will be the most lit site in this area of the hamlet.
I'm not sure I agree with that, but I can't say that I do absolutely know that for sure, so. Cause I'm.
And again, I just want to interject one more time and just, and I appreciate and the commissioners appreciate all the hard work that goes into considering, what, is gonna go into the site plan and what's best for the community. But just to reiterate that the firefighters need to feel safe, they need to, be able to run around or walk around the site at any time of the day or night, and, all in service of the community. So we will definitely take into consideration all of the comments, but I just wanna, make sure that we don't lose sight of that.
Okay, thank you. Other comments from the public on this application? Yes, sir.
When I go home tonight, I'm gonna walk in my house. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna say,
You need to identify yourself.
Identify yourself.
I'm gonna walk into my house,
What's your name? You gotta identify yourself.
Greg Carlack. I live in the house next to the
Okay,
firehouse at 517 King Street. So when I go in my house tonight, I'm gonna say these words. Alexa, all lights on. And you know what's gonna happen? All lights are gonna come on. It's a miracle. So, back when the original plan was proposed, there was a paragraph that I've mentioned before in the constructor's notes says specifically, when nobody's at the firehouse or in the firehouse, you have to turn off the lights. Every single light. The only one you can leave on are safety lights. None of these lights are safety lights. The only safety lights that exist on that building were on it for years. And they were very successful in dealing with all of these safety issues that they're talking about now. The lights go on, as you pointed out, with motion. Actually, a change in temperature is what changes the lights and sets them off. Those lights, I can't remember how many there were, but I believe there are 10 lights and 5 fixtures overlooking the firehouse parking lot on the north side. In addition to that, they've got 3, 4, 5 wall lights and a bunch of decorative lights, and they've got 3 pole lights. They have 14 parking spots. That's almost a light for every 2 parking spots. It doesn't make any sense at all. And back when this was done, if you looked at the first plan, the 3 circles that are on the eastern part of this building, the new building, are the ones closest to my house. They weren't there in the original plan. They put them on now, after I raised heck about the overflow and the spillage from the 5 high-intensity floodlights they put on without the board's approval. Those floodlights are 20,000 lumens, each one of them. They go all the way up the hill as far as I can see, and they light up all the trees, whether they're in my property or the ones across the way in the Oak Lane daycare center. It's distracting. I shouldn't have to sit on my deck and look at lit up trees all over the place. And they go all the way up to my neighbor's property. Those poor people, when the leaves come off these trees, if those 5 lights are not taken down, those lights are gonna shine right in their bedroom windows. I mean, I had to put up with that for 9 months. 9 months, they wouldn't even shut the lights off on the weekends. I mean, that's ridiculous. So I don't see any explanation for why any of these lights have to be on from dusk until dawn if nobody's in the firehouse or working outside the firehouse. It just doesn't make any sense. Nobody's explained that to me in all this time. Why do those lights have to be on all night? There are any number of solutions to this, and I've raised them all and they were ignored. So I don't know, I'm encouraged by what's happened tonight. I thank you guys and I thank Joe for taking the time and the effort to try to resolve some of these issues. So I thank everybody for taking the time to go into this, but it's important to me. It really is. It's not just a value issue. It's a lifestyle issue. I shouldn't have to deal with these lights all over the place. And frankly, you're absolutely right. It's the cumulative effect of what they're creating here. I mean, this is a big ball of light. So anyway, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Joe, have you done an existing light, like what the current photometrics are out there with the existing lights from the street lights along the frontage? Can you show 0 here, cause that's what you are?
Yeah, we do not include any of the existing lights at all, whether it's on the streets or the stuff on the building. It just, we don't have the information, the stuff on the building is way too old, whatever, it would just, it's not feasible to do that.
If I recall correctly, there are some streetlights along King Street down there that
Correct.
project onto the property. So, especially for the man doors on the east side, it's possible that there's sufficient lighting for the arrival prior to the motion sensors kicking on those east side. It's out there.
I wanna make sure I understood your answer, Joe. The light study that you have here showing no spillage, that includes the proposed lights as well as the existing lights, but switching the existing lights down to Kelvin?
No. There are no existing lights included in this analysis. This is only the proposed. So
Well, that's important information for us to have, again, talking about
it's
the
not
aggregate-
information you can get though. They're
But you're switching them over, aren't you switching those over to your new fixtures?
switching over the existing lights on the existing building that are there today?
Yes.
No.
Oh,
No,
you're not?
No.
I
The-
misunderstood,
no,
I'm sorry.
The 5 lights that were installed during construction, yes. The rest of the existing lights on the rest of the facility are to remain. We're not showing any improvements.
And what's the situation with those and what hours are they on?
I can't answer that right now. I can check.
Well, I mean, it seems to me that we're looking at a spillage chart here that's half the information. Why wouldn't we have that other information for the existing conditions plus the new conditions to understand what we're looking at? I don't get this.
Okay.
I mean,
the-
we need a
well,
meaningful study here, so if
The
this,
existing lights have been in place for
I understand.
however long they've been in place with no comments, questions, criticisms, anything from the town that any of us are aware of.
I understand, but you're proposing more lighting and we're not looking at what was already there. So, and when we have a chart here, we have spillage showing 0, it may or may not be true. But I can't believe that you're just giving us half a loaf here. How can you not
Can I just-
include those other 5 lights in
No,
this
we are
study?
including those 5 lights.
In
we
the
are-
study?
In the study, those lights, those 5 lights that were installed is, I'm talking
No,
about
not the 5, I'm talking about the 5 pre-existing ones that are on the building now, had nothing to do with construction, they've been there. We all know they were approved or whatever, they've been there, the grandfather, great. But still, that information's important for us to know what the delta is going forward. If you're not including that and we're just assuming that, oh, those are 0, then we're gonna turn them off, that's fine. But what hours are they on? Where are they? Where do they shine? Is there spillage from those? If in the aggregate with the new lights, we're gonna have even more there's so many different questions that are not answered if we don't have the information. I'm kind of shocked. I'm shocked that you're giving us half a loaf to look at.
Okay.
And did you guys understand it that way?
I was
Can
surprised.
ask a question?
I was surprised when I saw no lumens over here.
Uh-huh.
That highlighted the fact, and just trying to figure it out, and that what exactly is out there versus what is the additional, and
Right.
it really focuses on the north side.
It may be perfectly fine, by the way, it's just, I just don't understand why we don't have the
In
information.
general, no plan that comes in front of you considers streetlights in their lighting
I'm
analysis.
talking about the existing stuff.
No, but I'm saying existing streetlights,
On the building right
On the
now, there's
building.
right now there's lights on the building.
uh-huh,
Right when the firefighters arrive in the back, there, before the 5 new ones were installed,
yes,
it's my understanding there's lighting that's been there for a while.
yes, there's some lights
Right.
at some of the man
That's
doors
what the
and.
chairman's saying, yeah, but there's all, I think, again, I'm going off memory, but I'm pretty sure there's some dual spreads with old, whether par 38s or something that
Mhm.
lights up that.
Yeah.
That's not shown on here, so we're looking at,
Because we're not changing them.
right, but they provide additional, you're not starting at 0 on the north side. You're starting at plus something and you're adding additional lumens with these additional lights. So what the chairman's going for, I don't wanna speak for him, is we're only getting what's being added to it.
Mhm.
That's what I think the concern, cause there is lighting here right now along the front of the building, there is lighting on the side.
Yes,
That's not shown on here from a standpoint of total lumens on this site. And it is
Okay.
possible to get that and I think I mentioned this in July with the light meter. You just go out there right now with a light, turn off the 5 that you installed, but well, you can see what it is right now, that's your baseline.
okay,
Yeah, okay, thank you, Jeff.
alright, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
I'm sorry, if you wanted to have something clarified,
Sure. We'll try.
I think it was clarified, I think I'm okay, thank you.
Okay, we move now to our next item, this is an informal appearance, this is Motoring, 76 Whipple Lake Road, application for a site development plan approval, steep slopes permit, wetland permit, tree removal permit.
Hello, I am Jason Mulderrick, I'm the property owner. I was gonna take you through just sort of some context for the property, I got some pictures and some of basically a summary of the improvements. Nick from Hudson Engineering is on the phone, and so he'll be able to answer a bunch of other questions or any questions that you may have. My landscape architect was not able to make it, but we should be able to answer any of those questions. Okay, so here's just a general summary of some of the repair and improvements. So, own the house close to 5 years now, it's 40 years old, bunch of crumbling walks and walls that need to be replaced. There's flooding and erosion in multiple areas. I do live in a conservation subdivision, so subject to a bunch of regulations that we have, and then also steep slopes as well. So the steep slopes are creating a fair amount of runoff down my driveway and on top of my septic system, which is the primary issue that I'm really trying to address here, along with some others with more cosmetic improvements. There's no real containment for that water that runs off the driveway at all. And it's basically pathed to the septic and then down into the wetlands. So these are just some pictures here, walk, crumbling, sunken, flooding. The wall which we're proposing to basically replace at exactly the same height, but it needs to come down, there were roots pushing in on it, it's tilted forward, it needs to be completely taken apart, but it is all under 24 inches. This is just an example of the path, this is the property, and so this is how the water runs down the property, it comes directly down the driveway, it comes around an existing retaining wall that is already there, and then to the right side there is also sort of the neighbor's property and it runs down off the neighbor's property as well. At the end of my property down the bottom here is the wetlands. And so this is just a little bit of a view on the backyard on where you see the erosion and the flooding and the sediment picking up off of landing on the septic system. So here you can see a fair amount of the silt and everything. Oh, actually my mouse isn't, I think you can see my cursor. But this is just natural runoff that comes down off the driveway and eroding the property. Roots are exposed. This is another view of the sediment over here on the left-hand side. There's probably about 6 inches of sediment that I have to kind of shovel off and remove off top of the septic every year. This is a view of the backyard. There's a fair amount of boulders that are sticking up. We've already had a couple accidents with my young kids during these boulders. There's a couple sinkholes. So part of this is just filling some of this in and leveling it out a little bit. One of the proposed improvements is a set of steps that comes off the back deck. There's no way to get off the back deck directly into the backyard. You have to go off to the side of the house. So some of the fill that we're proposing bringing in is to just create a set of steps off of the back and just build it up a little bit. And that's a little bit of a summary there. Nick, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Jason. Will I be able to share my screen? I have a set of plans I'm going to show.
Yep, I'm not sharing anymore, so you should be able to.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. So in addition to what Jason just spoke about, just wanted to bring your attention to sheet C-3 of our erosion sediment control plans, which is set. The improvements consist of adding a retaining wall here at the end of the driveway, regrading the side yard area some so there's not much that much of a slope in that area, regrading some areas in the eastern side yard and rear of the yard here. We're going to try to grade this area so that the excessively steep areas are a little bit more manageable. We're trying to make this 3-on-1 throughout this excessively steep area here. In addition to that, we'll be providing drainage behind the walls that will discharge to a energy dissipator in the rear yard here, which should take away some of the runoff that comes down that driveway. As far as access to the rear yard goes, we're going to be putting a stabilized construction entrance at the end of the driveway, and we're going to, by hand, make a path down the steep slopes area to provide access for any material or men working or equipment that may be needed to complete the work in the back here. This area, all of it will be, once the grading is completed, and we can implement some seating, where we're going to install erosion control matting all along this area here that will help stabilize that area and make sure that germination takes place. That will also assist with some of the erosion that's been happening in the rear yard there. So all these areas here, once these areas have been regraded, will be stabilized with matting. We're providing double rows of silt fence in the rear yard here to protect the wetlands just south of the areas of disturbance. We're also showing tree protection, silt fence, construction fence around the existing septic area so that it does not get impacted. That's about it. did see that we had some comments from the planning board. There was in regards to comment number 3 regarding the stream segments in the back there. So there is no stream crossing the property. There is one to the south of the property, off the property, but I think on my my location map, it seemed that there were streams crossing the property here, but on closer review, those are just I believe they're boulder walls that cross the property here that were picked up on my location map. So those are actually streams. The actual stream is this line here in the back of the property. I think we've marked all the wetlands on the property, and I've actually updated the plans to show the 150-foot buffer on the property for the wetlands. It basically encompasses the entire area of our proposed work. Unfortunately, there's no way to avoid that. So there is a fair amount of handwork that we are proposing to do to get access to the back and to ensure that we limit the amount of erosion that occurs while we work.
Okay. Sabrina, you had some questions or comments?
Sure, for the board's information, this application is considered a type 2 action in accordance with the State Environmental Quality Review Act. So there's no further environmental analysis in relation to that act that needs to occur. From a zoning perspective, I'm not sure if you guys are aware, but this lot is within a conservation subdivision, and given that it is in a conservation subdivision, when that subdivision was formed, this lot was originally created. The planning board dictated that the residential R1A setbacks would apply. So even though it is in a 2-acre zoning district, this subdivision is treated as if it, from a setback standpoint, as R1A. So you should adjust your zoning conformance table to reflect R1A standards and make sure that your setbacks, as indicated on your plans, reflect the R1A zoning setback. I think that it's really important that you label your wetland buffer on the plans, and then in the off-site stream segment that you pointed out, that also has a buffer around it, so it would be important to put that buffer around that stream segment to see if it goes onto this property, just so that we understand, what the lay of the land is. The retaining wall at the end of the driveway, are you reconstructing that? Is that already there, or is that new?
Part of it is already there, part of it would be new.
Okay, so
Zoom in on
make
it.
sure that that area is also included. If it's not, make sure it's included in your development coverage analysis. And then, from a coverage standpoint, everything that they're proposing is within the maximum allowable limits of both building and development coverage. And then, also, it may be helpful to make sure that your neighbors' houses, you have one neighbor identified, and I'm assuming your other neighbor is a part of the house on the other side. Just make sure that those are clearly demarcated. And I think that's it. I do think that a little more quantification, and I think that the engineer and the environmental coordinator are going to speak to that. But for now, that's all my comments.
Okay, thank you. Jeff, do you want to speak about your comments? Jeff, you might be muted.
Sorry about that. Just a couple of comments. They will need to do an erosion control split. Couple minor changes with the drawings and some informational stuff. I think the board would like to see the weighted area calculations for steep slope disturbance. Probably useful information. Even though we know they're above, there's just no calculation for it. The retaining walls are going to need anything that's got a greater than 30-inch drop. Will have to have guards around them, 36-inch high rails. I think you added the construction entrance, and then I'm just looking at your new drawing, and it looks like you put in I don't know if that's some kind of a swale or something on an energy dissipator.
Yeah, so, if I could speak to that.
What is that?
Yeah, so, we were, we did get the comments, and I did review them, had a chance to just revise some of the plans based on the comments. I do get the concern about, the runoff from the driveway, especially in those areas where there's gonna be steep drop-offs, so in anticipation of that, I tried to, collect some of that area, before it, goes over the wall. So not only will the walls have drainage at the footing, but also at the top we'll try to have perforated pipes with filtered fabric to collect that runoff and kind of get it away from that area directly on the low side of the wall, so that it's not creating erosion at the base of those walls.
And so the line that's coming down from the driveway to the energy dissipator, the riprap apron, is that a swale? Is that a pipe?
That's a pipe.
I don't see it labeled. Okay.
That's a pipe.
So, to be honest with you, we had a discussion earlier about this where I think we're going to need, because the flow patterns are being altered, I think we're going to need some kind of an analysis that shows pre and post flows to, it looks like you have just one design point there, but we want to make sure we're not affecting the water quality. So, what you're doing is we want to make sure you're not, if you're fast tracking water from the driveway down to the wetlands down there, we want to make sure the pre and post flow volumes and flow rates are below what the pre-construction levels are.
Right. I'll take a look at that as well. Yes.
Jeff, do you prefer riprap to the pipe?
I prefer riprap over pipe, and they may find that they need to do that just based on the flow rates. Again, we're taking water that was flowing over the land and putting it into a pipe and shooting it down quickly. So riprap line swale. I think you have there's an existing riprap line swale on the site right now. Is that right?
That's correct, yeah. But we're going to remove that section and they're grading that area, so we're removing it and trying to replace it, move it out of the way to the more eastern side of the property.
Okay, and I would leave this to the planning board, whether the pipe or the riprap line swale is preferable, but like I said, I would just recommend that the pre and post, flow rates and total flows are less than, or equal to what the pre-construction flows and flow rates are.
And you'll need to submit those calculations. Listen, I think that there's an overall feeling that what you're doing is improving the situation that you have, and we would hate to see what you do end up in the same situation, 10 years from now. And so, providing the town as part of your application with those calculations, with the analysis, will help us understand where you are and the impacts to, of your system to the wetlands that are down below.
Yes, definitely. We'll include them.
In some cases, when we have steep slopes like this, some of the treatments are benched during the course of the hill. And to the extent that you can decelerate the water coming down the hill, you're going to save your erosion. And again, nothing elaborate, but maybe a series of rain gardens or benching somehow to slow it down. Obviously, you want to build it up and have a little flat area, which is great, and that's going to help. So the slope is still the slope, and the pipe is only going to take a section of it, but you have a lot of steep slope even behind the house as well. So if there's a way that we can perhaps below the area that you want to have wide open, bench it and just terrace it, whatever, I don't know what the technical term is, but to frankly look to actually improve the conditions that you have now, and to Sabrina's point, not just to put a Band-Aid on it and then you're back in 3 or 4 years, you got boulders all over the place and rutted and kids falling in ruts, etc. So maybe you could really, and then combine, of course, with your planting plan, which seems to be very aggressive. really come up with a nice solution that looks very natural, but also helps your situation.
Yep.
And avoids,
There are some plantings around sort of where the
Oh, yeah.
retaining wall is as well to kind of
Yes.
help mitigate that.
yes.
Yeah, and we can certainly add more.
But I would suggest that you take a look at that.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, that's for the engineers to use. Dennis, you had comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the first one was recognized and addressed. And again, I guess going on the theme, I guess there was a lot of math theme in my memo. For quantitative sort of disturbance within the wetlands buffer, and again, as a guide, obviously, now, right, with the 150, we don't care, I don't care from a wetlands perspective about existing. And certainly the septic would be considered existing disturbance, even though I know it's maintained as lawn. There's a freedom to do what you need to do in order to keep that, operating the way it is. So only, what would be considered new, and even regrading, or even if you're bringing in fill, again, if the surface is going to be the same at the end of the day, if it's new, please include that in the calculation, because at the end of the day, since it is in the Environmental Protection Overlay District, it just ramps up the required mitigation ratio. So, and how we sort of quantify what that disturbance would be and relative to the ratio, I think that would all help, to sort of foster this, and I agree with the chairman, robust landscaping plan. Let's see, I just mentioned just about the proposed tree removals. I know that the survey was probably done at a certain time, and some of these trees existed at that time, and now they don't. And also too, I guess on that vein, there's two separate plans, and so this comment just has to do with, obviously I think there was a change between when Michael Boyce did his plan and maybe when Nick got involved, but just be clear, within the rear part of the property, if you're just taking down one tree, that's fine. Just make sure that that's the same on both plans, because I think those are all nice oaks in the rear. So if you're only taking down one, or need to take down one, that's great, versus taking down three. So now just moving to the trees. So I do remember meeting Mr. Melderig and him discussing this conceptually. And at that time, he needed, there's some dead trees in the front and some other trees of concern. So I know he applied for a tree removal permit at that time in 2023. And I think there were one or two trees that I said, well, I think these would need to be replaced. So he mentioned that, as we were discussing this plan, that, could that be applied to this future project, because there was going to be a lot of planting. And I give him credit, he and I do agree with the definition of a lot based on what was submitted, so I said, sure. So, again with the math theme, I sort of had to look at that application in 121.6 for replacement. So the tables in the summary here just try to best to the applicant's advantage based on the overplanting, how we sort of break down what's required. When you start getting into more than 10 replacement trees required, and that's now in consideration of just this submission. So his prior 5 trees for that permit condition could be placed anywhere on the subject parcel, so those fall away. So now I'm just talking about the trees for this project. And again, some of them no longer exist, they were smaller diameter, so I have no comment on them. I'm just going with what's existing and coming up with, he needs 13 replacement trees for this submittal. The 5 still goes away. So looking at what was just considered tree species based on this plan, we came up with, 9 canopy and 19 understory, and looked at, from the 28, since he only needs 13, how best to manipulate the numbers and deduct what's necessary for canopy, understory, and what can't be just too much from a single species that exceeds that 33 1/3%. And happy if somebody on your team wants to QA/QC me if I potentially miss something, but I just think that the only tweak which would make this fine with 121.6 is a substitution of another evergreen species for two of the arborvitae's proposed. Because of the numbers of that particular species proposed, it just trips the wires at going over 33%. And there's obviously other evergreen candidates that, you know, would serve presumably the way these trees were located and oriented, you know, for screening purposes. So that would sort of check the tree algebra box for all of this. I have no issues or comments with, you know, what's proposed and where you're looking to plant them. That's just, you know, strictly doing code compliance and bean counting. The last part was just, you know, for general comments. I would consider including some form of herbivory protection, especially, and I appreciate this, you know, putting high bush blueberry in the mitigation area. That's definitely loved by deer and other species. I would request a substitution because in looking at the plan, I was sort of trying to break down what would, you know, be considered landscape plantings and, you know, not necessarily wetland mitigation, but certainly plantings that you're doing that would be considered wetland mitigation. And, you know, certainly by the delineation line there, just one of the perennials proposed, first time I ever saw the name of this plant, the rocket leopard plant is I believe from Asia. So I would just ask for just a substitute native species, and that would, you know, definitely wrap in everything to me to say, yeah, you know, having seen the site and what you're proposing to do, it certainly would qualify as mitigation. And I just asked for some clarity on the last part. It looked like symbols and number of trees listed with respect to the arborvitae's on the evergreen tree row on the western side of the property. Just if I missed that, I missed that, but it looks like it just doesn't link up, so I just needed a QA/QC of that. And that was my comments.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from board members, questions?
When do you plan on doing this?
When?
Yeah.
I've been waiting 4 years to start, so sooner rather than later. It's gonna be in the spring.
You know, you're not trying to hit the fall planting season for.
I don't think so. I'm not even on the schedule of the landscaper yet, so
Oh, okay.
yeah. So
I
it's
would
probably
recommend-
gonna be the spring.
I would recommend avoiding this arid fall planting season.
Great. Okay, so we'll see you when you have the material back next time. So we'll continue with an informal, I guess, until we get all this information. When would that be? What's the submission? So maybe October 14th, maybe, if we
October 24th, 21st is the next meeting with the September 29th submission deadline.
Okay. Well,
For that
figure that out. I'll let you know.
Okay,
Thank you.
great, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we'll move to our next item. This is a continued informal hearing for CG Homes LLC, 456 and 462 Ormoc Road. This is an application for a preliminary subdivision, plat approval, application for stormwater management and erosion and sedimentation control and tree removal permit for construction of a 4-lot subdivision. I think also Steve Schultz is in there somewhere too.
Good evening. Can I share my screen?
Absolutely, sure. Please.
So I think the board is pretty familiar with the site. The roads haven't changed, the building locations haven't changed, nothing like that has changed. We were just, you know, we were addressing staff's comments, most of them were pretty technical, most of them had to do with stormwater. So I'm hoping we can get this to a public hearing at this point.
Okay,
I'll just open it up to questions.
Great, any changes at all, physical changes, or it's all the same?
No real physical changes, I mean,
The shed's gone.
what's that?
The shed is
It's not gone.
It's not gone.
I know Dennis said he didn't see it, but I sent someone out there to look at it and he was on site and FaceTimed me, so I did see it.
Great.
It might have been just overgrown.
What you did, I think it was a tree?
So there were like four of us that couldn't find it, so that's us. Right now, it's kind of overgrown, definitely in navigating that. I come home with bloody legs from time to time, but that's the way it works.
Yeah, that area is pretty overgrown,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I can see how someone would miss it, so.
Okay,
But yeah, but nothing, nothing changed, I mean,
Okay.
just some pipe sizes, pipe slopes, elevation of the basin, things like that. We did remove a number of retaining walls around the site. So I think that's it, that's the
Okay.
physical changes.
good. Sabrina, you had some thoughts, comments?
Mr. Chairman, I really don't have a lot of comments, they satisfied pretty much all of my comments.
Good.
The only comment that I had, was to make sure the plans indicate fencing around the stormwater basin. I did have a comment regarding maintenance of the stormwater system, but I think the deputy town engineer is going to address that, so I really have no further comments and have no objection to sending it to public hearing if the board chooses to do so.
Okay, thank you. Dennis? Any comments?
Thank you, Sean. Sure, so, I guess we satisfied, the shed, is being back and still exists, I'm okay with that. So that can be ignored for now. So part of the reason why I did revisit the site now that I had, the landscaping plan is, so understanding that, there's tree removal and I know that, a survey was completed by a surveyor and things have been, identified at the, general common name level. But, part of the reason why, I wasn't necessarily looking to go out there and, I probably would take some of the diameter measurements just to do a QA/QC, but, from walking the site, it's not, this, from forest quality level, it's not this like oak, hickory, old stand of growth, right? I mean, there's tree of heaven, which we've mentioned, you have maples listed, a number of those are Norway maples. So, again, sort of understanding the composition that's there now, I think helps to, A, understand existing conditions, but B, maybe also drives some of the landscaping plan, the tree replacement plan, with respect to consideration for landscape species, things that, that look to maybe drive more of an aesthetic versus, replacing things from a habitat value perspective, because obviously these are going to become developed properties. And, we're not at public hearing yet, and, I don't think any of my comments represent a driver that would prevent you from doing that. But for people that ask questions about this project that relate to this type of stuff, those questions are going to come to me. And to be able to sort of, best serve the applicant and the board, the more information that I have to sort of speak about these things, from a functional perspective, would help all of us. So that's why, I sort of need that. So in order for me to really complete some of the work, I just need to know what these correlations are on the site, because I tried to go out and just locate the trees by featuring, but you have like a cluster of 7 with a bunch of measurements, and I'm like, is this the cluster of 7 I'm supposed to be at? I'm trying to line up where the former house was, and so it's difficult to do that. So, and I know we've done this before on other projects. I just need a numeric correlation between, what you're showing on the plan and what that tree number would be in the field. And if you need to change those numbers on the plan, that doesn't change anything materially. It's just a designation. But, you know, however you wanna do it, if you wanna work backwards, or if you wanna start again and be like, okay, this is tree one, tree two, and at least I know, you know, when I'm looking at the plan, I can find that in the field and help that. These are self-explanatory, the tree replacement, just those general comments. Again, similar theme as the last applicant, you know, going through the tree replacement plan calculations based on the diameters that we have now. I really can only back credit and give it a total for 90 of the planted trees proposed out of the 115 because of, you know, the requirements that I mentioned before about percentage canopy, percentage understory, and you can't have more than 33% representing, you know, a single genus. So certainly you're free to plant as many trees as you want. I guess certainly, since I'm not the approving authority, you're free to appeal to the board why you should receive credit for those additional trees, but I just went through the math and the accounting, and these were the calculations that I had come up with, and then just gave you an idea of what a tree bank fund calculation would look like based on that revised calculation. I think Bob's gonna speak to the planting cost estimate, but we need just, you know, typically more of a breakdown than sort of lump sum costs. So the invasive species presence, this is a species I've mentioned before for an applicant or two. Look, there's always problems with this in Newcastle. You know, some of them are fairly pervasive, and you see them enough and in enough locations that, you know, you can't necessarily target a particular property that they're, you know, sort of ground zero or the cause. But this particular species, mile a minute, is not as common, you know, per my experience here in over 6 years. And so the fact that you have it, I think that's important to deal with, frankly. And as I said in my memo, I'm happy if the board is amenable to start that removal work and consideration for just getting that off the site and off the property, and also depending on the expanse of that infestation, you know, whether areas of excavation should even be considered for stockpile and reuse, because this is an aggressive cedar, and that's basically, you know, how it spreads. So for the stormwater, I know that's usually not my thing, and you don't usually hear those words, but Bob said I'm allowed to say those here for this particular comment. There is, as part of the guidance, planting that is proposed based on sort of different zones within a basin. You know, it's not just like wet and dry or wet, intermediate, and dry. And again, your basin may not have all of these zones, so I'm not suggesting that you do. You might. That's something yet to be seen. But it may be necessary to maybe do a little bit more in terms of planting, not only with respect to the seed mixes proposed, which, you know, seem to be just a dry and a wet, but actually consider supplementation with plugs, even shrubs, you know, potted plants, etc. Because it takes a while for that seed to do what it has to do, and even for those plants to, you know, to get to a level of maturity. So it's good to have like both when you make these considerations. So I would need a plan that, you know, sort of lists those plants out as well, you know, numbers, sizes, quantities, that type of thing, etc. Specifically for that stormwater retention basin. That basically concludes my comments.
Okay, thank you. Bob, you have some comments?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Thank you. Basically, at the last meeting, I had 4 main categories, which I was hoping to see if it would be substantially complete. One being the stormwater, other being the maintenance, protection of traffic, and the phasing plan, which are clumped into the MPT, and also the subdivision plat. And Dennis just spoke on the plantings. The stormwater comments at this time have been found to be substantially complete. We did just finish up the review, Miguel did, that is, and he just gave the comments now. I'm going to forward them to the applicant and the applicant's engineer next week. They've been found to be substantially complete. The stormwater basin may have to be increased a little bit in size, because there is a discrepancy between what we think the volume should be and what the applicant shows. That's the only item there that may be changing the basin a bit. Keep in mind, it's gonna need a third-party sign-off for the SWIP by DEP. So that's critical, and generally, in my experience as a previous town engineer, I generally never signed off on the AOI for the DEC until such time we have a SWIP approved by the DEP, which will be looking at this quite closely as well. But the other comments are just minor in nature for the SWIP. Drafting items and technical comments. The next was the maintenance protection of traffic. He did do a good job on the plans. I still have some minor tweaks on it, but they're just minor comments. And I did have some comments on the sequencing plan as far as clarity and as far as the areas should add up to 5.25 for some reason. There were some like overlaps, and there can't be any overlaps in the sequencing plan. It's either phase 1 and phase 2, but they can't overlap. There was some overlap here, so that has to be cleared up, and it's really just graphical representation of that. But all in all, his narrative on the right looks pretty good, and I consider this substantially complete, with still some minor outstanding comments. The subdivision plat has been submitted. It shows the easements, it shows the drainage conveyance system easements A and B, one on the east, one on the west of the common access road. And it shows the site easements along 128 Armonk Road, and it shows the common access, common driveway easement along the main run of the road, going north and south as well. So there's still be some minor comments on the plat, usually put notes on there, regarding any type of disturbances to the wetlands or clearing grading, which requires planning board approval. But again, I find all that substantially complete, and Mr. Chairman, I have no objection to this being placed on a public hearing at the next scheduled meeting. That's my recommendation. Other items that will need a third party New York State DOT highway work permit sign off for all the clearing and any work within the right of way. The state does require some sort of special circuit acceleration and deceleration lane as you can see on the bottom corner, bottom of that plan that Ralph is showing right there. What other comments do I have? I think that's pretty much it for now, but I just want to make certain and discuss Sabrina's point with the maintenance. My experience with these subdivisions, what happens is the contractor, the owner developer mainly has to put up a bond for all the improvements on the site. Right now, we're approaching 2 million. So the owner developer will have to post that bond. The owner developer will have to sign all of the stormwater agreements, which is going to be looked at by town council, town engineer. He will be signing all of those. All of those agreements are good for successive signs. So during construction, the owner will be responsible for everything on that site through the stormwater agreement. Once everything's built out, lot 1 through 4, he will have to turn that over to the HOA, and the HOA will then become responsible for the maintenance of the driveway, all the utilities, and most importantly, the filtration basin to the north. And those will all be put in special agreements that are going to again be reviewed by town council and the town engineer to make certain it meets the new regulations of the MS4 regulations by DEC. So that's critical. And until such time everything's built out, everything's stabilized, the owner will be responsible for this entire site. So I think that ends my comments. For one last thing, all of these agreements, the stormwater maintenance agreement, the common driveway access agreement, and the site line maintenance agreement, all of them must be approved and if found acceptable by the town council, town engineer, and approved by the town board, and signed and submitted, and they all have to be done prior to, and it'll be recommending any type of signature by the chairman on the site plan, site development plan or the subdivision plats. And those finish my comments for tonight, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Bob. John, quick point, question. Is there a standard in the HOA agreements whereby a certain percentage of the lots at some point, which is to the HOA, is it 75%, is it 50%, or is it 100%? Or is that just tailored by each individual agreement?
I think it's case by case. I know right now, I speak to Greg Otis all the time, they're doing something similar. It does take some time, and I guess each one is case by case. But right now, Toll Brothers is responsible for that entire site. They have all the bonds, they have like $2-3 million in bonds. And they're gonna turn it over to the HOA, and all those stormwater agreements are transferred to the HOA. And they're gonna have to do what's in these stormwater agreements and report to the town on that. So it's gonna be similar in fashion, and that's gonna be something, I think I defer that question to John Lovelace with the HOA on the mechanism, on how it's gonna be transferred from the stormwater agreement that the owner will be responsible for.
Well, I was more interested when that might be triggered.
I'm gonna defer that to John Lovelace.
I mean, the point at which it's triggered is the point at which we're comfortable triggering it, if that makes sense, right? The HOA has to be in place, it has to be secured such that they can meet the obligations and they undertake the obligations.
Right.
And not before then. You know, the obligation can't be untethered to any viable entity until everything's in place so that the maintenance agreements
Right.
are secured moving forward.
You know, I was thinking, John, would it make sense maybe in the resolution, I think Sabrina was trying to get to this point before, and it's a good idea, to put some sort of condition in the resolution that, you know, prior to the issuance of the final CO, they have to demonstrate to the town that there's gonna be a smooth transition of the stormwater agreement from the owner to the HOA, so everyone's on the same page, and the HOA knows exactly what they have to do to satisfy the town's requirements based on the EMS order.
I would think that the better alternative would be in the stormwater maintenance agreement, which would be initially between the current owner and the town.
Okay.
Is drafted in such a way that envisions the ultimate passing along to the HOA in a way that secures the town's interest.
Okay.
Rather than setting it now with some sort of deadline as to when, you know, when we don't know it. So that's the way I would approach it.
That's a good idea.
Okay. Good, okay, thanks. Okay, any questions from board members? If not, is there a motion to move this to a public hearing?
Motion?
Second? All in favor? Aye. So when can we schedule this? I don't think you have any real material things that substantial things that you have to submit, so we
I
can do
mean,
this.
we're gonna put our landscape architect in touch with Dennis, they can work out trees and things like that. We have preliminary declarations and easement agreements that we are looking at internally, and then once we're okay with them, we will send them on to John, and I think that's it.
So is October, is it 21st?
21st, with the September 29th submission
have-
deadline.
If you have the materials for September 29th, if you think you can do that, let's
Yes.
do it for the 21st of October.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yep.
Okay,
Does.
good. We'll see you then.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks.
Good night.
Yep. Okay, we have a request for an extension of time. This is on Schwartz. This is 6 Breckenridge Road. This is an application for a site development approval, application for a stormwater management and erosion and sedimentation control and tree permit.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the planning board, I'm Alan Village, ALP Engineering. And we are requesting an extension of time to complete the tree removals, which have actually been completed already. Because it was without permits. Perhaps I could just, share some of that.
Your sound is coming in and out, Alan.
Oh. Very important. be better? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So can you see this green? I think I'm sharing.
Yes, you are.
Okay, so what this project was that there were a total of 20 trees that were determined to be removed without permits. And we were before this planning board. It also involved the construction of a, I'll call it a half basketball court that straddled the property line. And the plan actually involved removing the half basketball court in its entirety, expanding the driveway, putting in stormwater management, improving site distances at the existing driveway, and an extensive planting plan. And just sort of refresh everybody's memory what this was. We actually had a resolution of approval back on September 10th, 2024. And under that, the work was to be completed on or about September 10th, 2025. I'll just say my office did submit the final plans last November. And I'll just say that we, during the winter, it was not the time to sort of move forward with things. When we reviewed the plans with the deputy town engineer, Mr. Scioli indicated that he wanted us to review the site distances at the existing driveway, which we did. And I believe we satisfied all the site engineering requirements. And so we have a contractor who is ready to move forward with the project and would like to, I believe he's installed all the erosion sediment controls. So we're trying to move forward and get the work completed. So that's why we were requesting this extension of time. As I say, in essence, to complete the tree removals, which had actually been done a few years ago without permits. But that being said, we're just trying to we're trying to complete the project.
Okay. Any objections from staff on the extension?
No.
No. Is there a motion to grant the extension sought by the applicant?
Motion?
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. All set.
Thank you very much, really appreciate it.
Good night, Alan.
Good night.
Good night. Our next item is also an extension. This is for the Chappaqua Central School District. This is an application for a preliminary subdivision plat, steep slope permit, tree removal permit, stormwater pollution prevention plan approval for Button Hook Road and Sabina Road.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the planning board. Kristen Motel from Petty and Bader on behalf of Chappaqua Central School District. We are requesting an additional 6-month extension of time. The last extension granted from this board was dated May 6th, 2025. We're asking that be extended until March 16th, 2026. I have been advised by our client that the litigation that is pending is very, very close to conclusion. So, for what that's worth and the records on that litigation are a matter of public record, we hope that this may be the last time that we're before you here for this request.
Okay.
And I'm happy to take any questions. We're not counsel on the litigation, but I am in touch with litigation counsel, so I'll answer them to the best of my ability.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for council? Any objections from staff on granting the extension?
No.
Okay,
No.
not seeing any. Is there a motion to grant the extension sought by the applicant?
Motion.
Second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you, good night.
Good night.
Our last item is the minutes of July 15. I will note, Sabrina, have you received any notes from us? You know, it's interesting to go through the minutes and remember the things that we're supposed to do.
No, I did not.
Okay, anyway, just as a reminder to everyone, Sabrina's looking for comments on the NFOC regulations that we talked about many months ago.
You have you gave me,
Yes.
some members gave me initial comments, and that was that.
Okay, but do you have any comments, thoughts? feel free to send them in. And at some point we'll talk about it again. Any questions or changes on the minutes? No? I have a couple, I'll just read them. Not seeing any, is there a motion to adopt the minutes as will be modestly amended?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And is there a motion to close the meeting?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.